Hey y'all, good to see you as always here on Grassroots Gardening. I'm Ryan, and today we've got just an absolutely beautiful Wednesday. It's February the 1st, and it's the perfect time to prune this muscadine vine that you see here behind me. So I planted these last year, and I just kind of let them go. I should have been doing a lot better job training them, but I just didn't for whatever reason. So that's what we've got to do this year, is get these things trained like they ought to be on this little fence here. Now we've also got, you can see there, we've got some tea olives that kind of planted in the mix, kind of in the wrong spot, but I'm not going to move them. We've got another little lower petalum there too that's too close to the fence. I don't want to move them, so we're just going to prune those guys back and kind of get them out of the muscadine vine's way. And I'll be honest with you, I have not trained a muscadine vine from the start. Now I've pruned them before. My dad's got some absolutely gorgeous ones up at his house that I've helped him prune in the past. But I've not trained one myself from start. So we're going to learn together on here, but hey, that's what it's all about, because the more you know, the more you grow. Grab your pruners, let's go get to work. We've got 3 total muscadine vines along this fence here, which is probably one too many. Usually about 20 feet apart from where you actually plant them is what you want, but for whatever reason, planted 3 on here last year, so we're just going to go with it. Now I was looking at the tags earlier. When these came in last year, I'm kind of not, I don't know if that's an actual true cultivar, to be honest with you, because I couldn't find one that said just bronze. Now I'm thinking that might be a variety, a bronze variety called Carlos, and I hope it is, because you've got 2 types of muscadine vines. You've got females, and then you've got ones that have perfect flowers, meaning they have complete flowers, so they have pollen and can pollinate themselves. If all of these happen to be females, then we wouldn't get any fruit. We've got to have a perfect or a self-fertile muscadine vine in here somewhere, so that the bees can transfer the pollen to the female flowers, and then obviously, you know, we can't have grapes without that happening. So the tag on this one and then that one up there are bronze. Hopefully the variety Carlos. But if not, we have one in the middle here that I know is a variety called Jumbo. And it is a self-pollinator, meaning it will have pollen so that it can be the pollen can be transferred from Jumbo to these 2 on the end, if they in fact are just females. Hopefully we got 3 self-pollinated vines here, but I'm not sure. But anyway, let me get down to it and show you guys what the main goal of today is. Now these were grown in, obviously, field-grown application, because when they came in, they were just a ball of dirt in these bags here. And one thing we've got to do for sure is get this old cloth off, because you see how it's really damp under there. That could be a perfect place for fungus and disease to start, and rot. So we've got to get that cut away. We're going to fertilize these today as well here a little bit later. But the main goal of today is to get one straight trunk going straight up to the very top of the fence. And then we're going to go left with what is called a cordon, just like cordon bleu. But that is your main growing point, is the cordon. So we want trunk up to cordon, and then we're going to prune back to the cordon, and then our canes, which is going to be our fruit producing part of the plant, are going to come off of that. So we're going to prune it all the way back to canes that have about 2 buds per cane. And we've got our work cut out for us, because as you can see, these things, I just kind of let them go wild. But we got this old tea olive on the other side of the fence coming through. We got to trim it up. We've got the lower petalum doing the same thing right there. So we've got a lot of cutting to do. And so I'm going to use my old Felcos here. Now these guys don't pay me to say this, but I love these pruners. I bought them when I worked at a nursery 23 years ago. You can see the wear and tear. But invest in a good set of pruners like these Felco number 2s. They're about 60 bucks. But, I mean, come on, I've had them for 23 years. And I have in the past bought cheaper ones. They last a season or two. You throw them away. Really, if you're going to do some serious gardening, invest in a good set of pruners like these Felcos. I think I've replaced this blade maybe twice, but I just absolutely love these things. Had them forever, and they are just still going. They're comfortable, they're strong, and if you keep them sharp, they will really cut down on your labor. So I think the first thing we need to do is come in here on this lower pedalum, and we're going to give it a hard pruning, because obviously it's growing up in our fence over there, and we don't want the vine growing on it and they're just going to get all jumbled up and make a mess. So I'm going to prune this thing back extremely hard, and we'll see if we can't attempt to contain it. I forget what variety this is, but it looks like one that's going to get, you know, at least 6 foot by 6 foot. So this will kind of be an experiment to see if we can maintain it. Oh my goodness, that's going everywhere. If we can maintain it more on like a 2 foot tall. And I'm going to go ahead and get rid of some of these Muscadine vines, because we know on Muscadines you have to prune them pretty dang severely in order for them to do well and give you good fruit production, because they flower or actually produce fruit off of that older wood. And so we want to get back, like I said before, to about 2 buds per cane, and they will just they'll flower more heavily, produce larger and more fruit. So they're going to go through a big transition today. And as I said, it's February the 1st, and usually I try to do it right around or before Valentine's Day. So we're pretty close to that. We've got this big pedalum leader going through the fence. We're going to get rid of that guy, and we're just going to shape this thing into like a little mound. These Muscadine vines will just grab onto whatever. They're just trying to spread and find sunlight and find something to hang on to. And I don't want them hanging onto this lower pedalum. I want them hanging onto our fence here. So here's what we've done to the lower pedalum. Cut him way back, and he's going to rebound from this, and we're going to have to come in and prune him probably pretty often, because he seems to be real happy here, and this is a larger variety, and they grow pretty quick. So, you know, moving it would have been the best option, but I just don't feel like doing that today, to be honest. So we're just going to cut it back. Now we can get in here and kind of see the structure of our vine a little bit better. We're going to have to do something similar to this tea olive, and this is really a bad case scenario because tea olives get huge. This thing can eventually get on up to 20 something feet, and probably 6 to 8 foot wide, and it's all up in this fence. So this is going to be probably a temporary fix just so I can prune these vines, but somebody's going to have to give here eventually, because I don't think we would be able to keep this tea olive under control enough and out of this fence for an extended period of time. So we're just going to prune up a little bit today so we can get in here and attempt to get our Muscadine vine trained. This Muscadine vine is just hanging on to everything. I really should have pruned this thing last year. We're going to come in here and prune the top of this tea olive as well, because Muscadine vines need full sun. If we don't get that full sun, it's really going to hurt fruit production, and they need that full sun. I mean, they're a vine. They're trying to get to the top of whatever they're growing on, because they need that sunlight in order to produce fruit and to do well. So east is behind me, so I want to try to catch that good morning light. and just increase the hours of sunlight a day that we give this vine. So it's not going to hurt this tea olive at all. It'll just make it more bushy. And if we're gonna leave it here, then we're going to just have to know we're gonna have to prune it more often than we normally would, because it's gonna continue to want to grow up and shade our muscadine vine here. I'm gonna come in here too and try to trim up this big one right here, so it's really got this last vine kind of shaded. So we're just gonna come in through here and kind of give it a flat top. The muscadine vine's already growing all up in it. You know, the cool thing about plants and gardening in general is everything's not gonna be always perfect. So you just make it work. And so that's why we're gonna just give these things a hell of a haircut. And who knows, sometimes the plant actually reacts better. And you learn by just having to kind of make things learn to live together. This thing may bloom its head off now that we've pruned it. So sometimes you just got to make it work. So we've given these a really good haircut. Now we have a nice gap in between the tea olives and our muscadine vines. And like I said, this tea olives will be just fine. But now we can get all that good sunlight as it passes across. It'll give it at least a couple more hours to the vine on the end, which is the smallest, and he's the smallest due to he just hasn't been able to get as much sunlight as the ones up here on the hill. So I figured this was a good one as any to start with. We've got a lot of these little sucker vines coming out down here near the base of the vine that we want to just go ahead and get completely rid of. So all these little spindly guys down here at the base. Another thing you're going to notice too is look how fast this thing is starting to weep. This whole plant, when we prune it, it probably, who knows, it might lose a couple gallons of water, and that's fine. It's just called bleeding or weeping, and muscadines just do that. So don't worry, it's not going to affect the plant any if you see that bleeding or that dripping coming from your fresh cuts. But all these little guys down here at the bottom, we want to get rid of, even that guy there. And I'm going to try to come in and get as close to the trunk as I can. Now I'm going to keep our tag because I don't want to lose that, even though it just says bronze. That at least lets me know, gives me some information. So getting rid of all the little stuff down here at the bottom, and then soon we got to make a decision of which one of these, or how many of these leaders we're going to leave. I really just want, as stated before, one main one coming up. So I think what we're actually going to do is just keep this one nice big trunk and let it come up, and then we'll try to go left and right off of it at the top. So therefore, that means we've got to get rid of this entire section. And had I done a better job last year, you know, we wouldn't have had to let the plant waste all that energy making those vines. Look how fast they start bleeding. I mean, I've seen these things just dump buckets of water, especially on some of Dad's big ones that we would cut. They would just literally lose gallons of water. So now we're going to let this be our main trunk. We're going to go up. Let's see, it's crossing over right here, so that's going to be the one that we let go to the right. And then we've got 2 cordons here. I think I'm going to use this older, fatter one and let it be the one that goes to the left. So we're just going to come in here and get rid of this guy. And these tendrils, you see, their job is to wrap around and hold on to whatever they can find. Now, a lot of times that will wrap itself around the vine and choke it. So if you see that happening anywhere, you need to go ahead and cut that tendril loose so it doesn't choke your vine out. So now that we've decided which vines we're going to allow to become our main cordons, one going right, one going left, we can kind of come in and clear out the ones that we just cut, as well as any other vines. So that's what I'm going to do here, is just cut these tendrils loose. Try to clean this thing up a little bit so I can see better what I'm doing. And all these wiry ones coming out the top, we're just going to go ahead and get rid of them so they're not slapping us in the face. We're going to prune them way back, and I'll show you in more detail when we get ready to do that. But for right now, we can just kind of get rid of all these little spindly canes so we can see what we're doing. And it's really just kind of a puzzle sometimes. You just grab and hold to the main ones that we cut down at the bottom and just kind of following them on up and getting rid of them. Making sure that I don't cut the main cordon right here, which is the one that we have chosen to leave and be our main cordon. Now it kind of dips back down here. I may see if I can get it loose from the fence, which I can, and then we can bring it back up to the very top of the fence, which is where we want it. We'll just have to kind of rip some of these tendrils loose and gently feed it back through the fence, not breaking it or cracking it. And that way we can bring it right up to the top. And the reason we want to get it on the top is because all of our grapes, obviously, are going to form on that cordon. And so we want to try to keep it up here so that we can easily get under there and get our grapes. Now I've got it untangled, so we're just going to kind of weave it back through the very top of the fence now, and then we'll be in good shape. Just like so. And we've got this one here that we're going to get rid of all together. It's just a little spindly guy, and eventually he would become a main cordon, but this is kind of like, if y'all watch the tomato video, this is kind of like that. The mother can only support so much fruit. And so, you know, I've read a lot of books on muscadine production, and just people over the years, through trial and error, have learned that this is the best way to get the maximum yield per muscadine vine. Now I'm going to take y'all off the tripod for a little bit here, because this is one of the most important parts of the whole pruning. And so I'll go through it again. We've got the trunk coming up, and then we've got one main cordon going down here, and we've woven him back into the fence. Now there's not a lot of canes down here, so we're just going to leave it be for now. But as this thing matures, we'll have more and more canes popping up off that main cordon. And the most important thing there is we want about a hand's width between this cane and that cane, about 4 inches. And so that's pretty good right there. We've got about 4 inches in between there. But then we come in here. Let me get this guy out of our way. Those little attachers, you just grab hold of everything. Then we come in here and we've got one, he's not 4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to get rid of that guy. Now we've got a hand's width in between that cane and the next cane. And so what we want to do, and probably the most important part of pruning a muscadine, is, if you can see through the fence there, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 buds on this one cane here. Let me get you to the other side of the fence, and I'll try to cut with my left hand just so y'all can see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, now I had to walk around to the other side of the fence. Hopefully you can see what I'm talking about now. So we've got one bud there at the tip of my pruners. We've got another bud there, number 3, and 4 buds. What we want to do is reduce this back to 2 to 3 buds. So I'm going to leave 3. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to cut it about a 1/2 inch above that bud. And of course the camera wants to focus on the fence, not the actual bud. Let me see if I can help it out some there. So we're going to leave just that much. Leave that much on top of the bud because it's going to die back a little bit and we don't want to take the risk of killing that bud right there. And that's probably the most important part of pruning a muscadine vine is the number of buds that we leave per each cane. So now I'm going to go down through here and do the same thing, 2 to 3 buds per cane down along that cordon. So there you have it, guys. We've got our trunk coming up to our main cordon running along the top of the fence, and we've pruned each cane back to either 2 to 3 buds. And now we'll do the same for this side. We will follow this guy up and we're going to prune out all of this junk right here. I mean, that's just loaded. That side down there, even though it looks naked, that's really what we want. And so I'm going to come through here and do the same thing to this left side and then move on up to the other 2 muscadine vines. Okay, for time's sake, because I got to go get my son in about 10 minutes and I don't want to make a crazy long video for you guys, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how I fertilize my muscadines. So again, we're February 1 today. You could wait a few weeks. You want to fertilize twice, or at least I do. I do super early spring and then mid-spring. So I'm going to hit mine now, and then I'll come back in probably mid-April and I'll hit them again, and then I'll leave them for the rest of the year. So that's just my personal preference and the way I've been taught to do it. Now I will tell you too, if you want to use a conventional, you know, like a 1313 or a 10-10-10, you can. And there's a really good website on Clemson's, well, it's actually a portion of the Clemson website. It's called the HGIC, so the Home Gardener Information Center. I use it a lot. Those guys have really trialed a lot of these plants and have great recommendations as well as fertilizer regimens. So if you want to go there, a great source of information. Just a little tip, I use it all the time. So what we're going to do here, we're just going to pull back this mulch probably about 1.5 feet all the way around the entire base of the plant. So I have to go to the other side of the fence and do the same thing. And then y'all know my measuring technique when I use the Spoa products. Since they're organic, I don't have to really worry about burning them. So I've just put that's probably about 3 cups right there. And I'm just going to put it all right here because that's where the active growing roots of this vine are. And we're just going to kind of work it into the soil because we've got rain coming tomorrow and we don't want this washing away. We want all those organic fertilizers and nutrients to make their way down to the roots. So work it in the soil a little bit and then just simply bring your mulch back, covering it back up, and that'll help hold it there. Then when that rain comes, it's going to go down there. Spring's right around the corner. This thing's going to jump, and hopefully we're going to have some grapes this year. Well guys, there you have it. That's how I prune and fertilize my muscadine vines. Y'all truly are learning with me on this one, which is so much fun. I appreciate you watching, and always remember, the more you know, the more you grow. And I better get before school calls and says, hey, where are you? See you guys on the next video. The more you grow, the more you know. That was backwards.